All right, we are at 6:30. Technology's working. We're good. Welcome everyone to our committee of the whole meeting at 6:30 p.m. What we'll jump into is we have some discussion on the Bristol Pannell project and a little bit of a presentation. So I'll invite Scott Connors and Steve Gronenboom to actually come up and walk through that.
Yeah, so I'll kick it off. We've had about 6 design progress meetings since we last chatted. So we've had about 6 design progress meetings since we've last chatted, and we've worked through a whole bunch of different issues. And I think one of the ones that we wanted to come back and chat with the commission about was the aesthetics of the bridge. And we wanted to talk about different patterns that we could use to make it maybe look like brick or cobbles, or if we just wanted it to be straight concrete. So some of the things that we had talked about before from a planning perspective to give this some character and make it fit within the area. So we're kind of using that as an excuse to come in and talk about a few other things as well. And you'll see on the list in the memo that I provided that we like to talk a little bit about fencing across the top, video surveillance, like to give you an update on the railroad agreement, and then finally close out with the cost estimate and a project schedule so that we can kind of tell you where we're headed next. So again, Steve is the project manager with Moore & Brugge Inc. There's 2 other gentlemen that are on the design team. Ryan Warden is our structural engineer from Scott Civil Engineering, and then Bob Goodhart is our railroad engineer from Pathfinder. I don't think we needed necessarily to have them here with Steve and I both together, but Steve will walk us through a short presentation and start asking for some input.
Good evening. My name again is Steve Gronenboom. I'm with Moore & Brugge Inc. At the office, when we meet people, we tell people we get to work on cool projects in West Michigan. This is one of those really cool projects. It's also very challenging. You see on the picture there, see that 10-foot 0-inch clearance. That's called a sacrificial beam on the existing bridge there, meaning it sacrifices itself. It gets hit before the railroad gets hit. In August, that beam got hit, not that beam, the one on the other side. The beam got hit so hard, it fell off onto the truck. Neighbors went running out as the guy was backing up because they were worried it was going to fall and crash through his cab and he'd be injured significantly. But that sacrificial beam has been put back up. With the new structure, again, we're going to lower the road about 2.5 feet. We're going to raise the train tracks about 3 feet, actually 4 foot in one spot. The tracks will come up 4 feet in one spot. That'll create a minimum underclearance of 14.5 feet, which is per MDOT and state highway guidelines. Here's the end goal here. It's this picture right here. When you look at that picture there, keep in mind things have changed a little bit since we prepared that rendering. One thing that changed a bit is the head walls. This part right here, right on top of the structure. On that picture there, it's about 1 foot. Railroad requirements told us you have to raise that up to the level of the train tracks. So when you look at that picture, keep in mind the head wall, it's not going to be 1 foot tall like it is on that picture. It's going to be 4 feet tall. That's to create a flat walking surface across the top if they ever have to get to the train cars when they're stopped there. When you look at this picture too, keep in mind tonight, amongst some other things that Scott mentioned, we're going to talk facade treatments for the wing walls. And when I say wing walls, it's this piece right here, and the head walls, facade treatments there. And we're also going to talk about what type of fencing should go on the top. Should any fencing at all go on? We think it should, but what type of fencing? And look at some options there. These 6 points here are mentioned in Scott's memo to the commission. We're going to look at facade treatments, fencing options, video surveillance. Do you want a video surveillance system to guard against graffiti and whatever? Scott's going to bring you up to date on the railroad agreement. We will bring you up to date on the cost estimate. It has gone up a little bit, not a lot. And finally, we'll talk about the project schedule. So let's talk facade treatment options. We've got 4 options to take a quick look at tonight and maybe get some feedback as we go through them. We're calling this option number 1, and I can go backwards and forwards through them. Option number 2 here, it's a little more uniform in color. and it's a little smoother of an appearance. If you zoom in, you kind of see a gloss to the bricks there. Smaller bricks, mainly brown bricks. Again, option number 2, that's a close-up. Option number 3, it's got the speedy Amtrak train going over the top of it. It's a little bigger brick, same general color. And then finally, option number 4 would be a little bit different take on things, kind of similar to the tunnel under M45. So go back through them again. Option number 1, number 2, and then a close-up of number 2, number 3, and finally number 4. Cost implications on going to these decorative treatments from just a nicely finished plain concrete. We are told it's relatively inexpensive. We are also told by our railroad, or by our structural engineer, he kind of cooked these facade treatments into the costs that we prepared earlier this year and reviewed with the city commission. But if you were looking to save some money, if you just went with plain concrete, you would probably only save about $10,000. Those are not real stones in there, it's formed concrete. They put form liners in, they're rubber form liners that they put in when they pour the concrete. They then remove the forms and they actually stain them when they're all done. So we would love to get some of your comments on what types of options you're looking at for the facade treatment. Moving on, let's talk about fences. The fence will be 42 inches tall. If you put a fence up, it'll be 42 inches tall. Obviously, there's no fence up there right now. I'll show you the options. If you do fences the wrong way, if you do them a very cost-effective way, chain link fence on the top, 42 inch tall, black vinyl, commercial grade chain link fence. It gets the job done, and it looks kind of like, okay, it gets the job done, right? Cost effective. There's about 150 feet of fence, about 75 on each side, because it's going to go up and down the wing walls and across the head walls. About $8,000 for chain link fence on each side of the structure. A little bit nicer option, picket fence option here. This is tan. It could be whatever color you'd like it to be. We think this is about $35,000. This is about $200 per foot for this to be installed. Keep in mind it's commercial grade, it's heavy duty. You want to set it there and forget about it and never have to go back and fix it up. The third option, it's just nicer. You know, how much money do you want to spend? This is estimated at about $45,000. So you've got 4 facade options, 3 fencing options, chain link. You've got that picket fence there, and just a fancier picket fence on that one there. Third thing we got to talk about with cost implications is a video surveillance system. You have one on the tunnel under Lake Michigan Drive. That system, it's not monitored, it simply records video, and if there's ever any incidences in the tunnel, graffiti or some safety concerns, you go back and you rewind the tape and you watch for that event to occur. That system in 2016 was about $25,000. So estimated here, it's probably about doubled in 6 or 7 years, about $50,000 for some cameras out there if commission decides they'd like to go that way. Again, that decision, we don't need it tonight, but we will need it in the next couple of months. I'm going to turn it over now to Scott to bring you up to speed on the railroad agreement.
By far the most exciting part of this project, right? You'll see 2 documents in your packet. One is the railroad agreement itself, and the second document is a memorandum of understanding that's kind of been pulled out of the railroad agreement. And you might remember that when we did Walker Avenue, there were some debates with the railroad. They wanted us to take over not only the Walker Avenue crossing, but some additional crossings. And they weren't too gluttonous with this. They didn't want us to take over every aspect of it, but they wanted us to take over the maintenance of the road. And Gary and I had quite a few talks about this, and we thought, you know what, it makes a whole lot of sense for us to take care of that so that we don't have the railroad coming out there and patching in maybe 2 feet of pavement across the whole road. We would want that to be done with our work so that we were right up against the rails. And so I think the memorandum of understanding really covers that, and we've gotten more and more comfortable with that over time. So I think that's a fairly easy one. The railroad agreement itself is a railroad, a Coopersville and Marne template. So it doesn't look like one that you see all the time that City of Walker generated. But we did work with our city attorney and went through that. I think some of the cautions to share with you are, again, that it's a railroad template. It's not the city template. We'd have had the legal review. And maybe the big thing is that it transfers the responsibility for this crossing from the railroad to the city. So Steve talked before about the sacrificial beam getting hit. When that happens, we sometimes respond and try to help out, but ultimately the responsibility for that lies with the railroad. So when you see the repair get done later and somebody's up on top and they're drilling holes into the concrete to try to refasten that, that's all done by the railroad. And the way that things would work now with us taking on the responsibility, we're the ones that want the wider bridge, we're the ones that want the improvement. Unfortunately, we're the ones that have to take over the maintenance for that. And there'd be some collaboration and working together, but I think ultimately it would become a city structure instead of a railroad structure. And in the end, that's probably not all bad because we have way more resources to work with if there's an emergency and to do all the inspections and things like that. But we want to go into that with everyone's eyes wide open, just like we did at Walker Avenue, to know that we would be taking on that responsibility there. So if I know that you got those a little bit late, and I apologize for that. We had a confusion with the package that went in. And in fact, I thought we hit our limit for the documents that we could put in, and maybe I thought maybe it got cut because we had exceeded our limit. But if you're comfortable with those agreements, what I would recommend is that you consider a resolution to adopt those. But I think we need to be careful about how we do that, and it would be really nice if we could dedicate some latitude to the city manager to make final adjustments. And specifically, those would be the exhibits that are a part of the agreement. They're not complete and they're not shown there. There are things that are going to be generated over the next few weeks and months. It'd be a profile of the track, which I think we're pretty close with. It'd be the actual construction plans, which we're getting closer with. And it'd be some cost estimates from the railroad on the transloading of the cars. And the transloading is when the bridge is out, they need to stop short of their final destination, unload all the materials from the train, put them on a truck, and then truck them to their final destination. And we did that with Walker Avenue as well. And at that time, it was about $3,200 a week to do that. I suspect that it's going to be a little bit more now, probably in the $4,500 to $5,000 range. But we can work through those details. And if you're comfortable tonight, we could work through it that way. If you're not comfortable and want some more time, that's fine too. And we can take a look at this again at the next meeting and see if we can firm that up. So I think that covers the railroad stuff, and I'll certainly be available to answer questions as Steve wraps up.
So we said we'd bring up to speed on the updated cost estimate. The next slide here. The items in white font are the original items when we estimated a $2,260,000 project. The first yellow item, which is a new or an increased cost item, sanitary sewer relocation, 140 feet. If you look at the center of the road, there's sanitary sewer right down here. It's down 15 feet. It's in a steel casing. It's under the middle of the existing roadway. We've chatted with Grand Rapids about designing a foundation system that would work, that would be piles around each side of the sanitary sewer that's in a steel casing, and it would work. And the city of Grand Rapids said, no, you know what? We've done that before. We don't want that option. I can point to projects we've worked on before where we've spanned heavy foundations over major gas mains along the East Belt Line. Long story short, City of Grand Rapids said there's 140 feet of sanitary sewer. Right now it's under here. You have to move it over here, so it's right under the middle of that line.
So Steve, is that running north-south?
It runs north-south, yes it does. Yes it does. That's one change. We're estimating that about $100,000. The second change, when you lower the road 2.5 feet. There's a little bit of water main that needs to be lowered down, but the water main, there's a dead-end water main on the north side. There's a dead-end water main on the south side. They're 12-inch mains, they're transmission mains as well. The city has said we have to connect those mains together. That's about 350 feet of water main to be constructed, a couple of services to be reconnected to Sparta sheet metal, and there's a couple of hydrants that have to be redone. We're estimating that at about $100,000. So $100,000 sanitary sewer, $100,000 for water main. Fencing, I threw in option number 2 there at about $35,000. And I took the liberty on the 4th item there of adding in video surveillance at about $50,000. Again, you can eliminate that if you want to. Bottom line, the project estimate goes from $2,260,000 to just over $2.5 million.
And maybe one thing that we can add about this, the 2 items for sanitary sewer and water main are items that we can use system funds for. And you've heard us talk about system funds a lot. That means that it comes from the system, of the Grand Rapids system, and they essentially become the bank that kind of loans it out to the Walker users, and then our rates get adjusted every year depending on how much debt we have. So it's a pretty standard arrangement that we use that for water towers and connecting water mains and things like that. So in this case, in fact, as late as today, I had a talk with Grand Rapids about it, and we totally agree that this water main connection makes all the sense in the world, and we should get that done. And they're being very helpful with us in looking at material procurement, design expediency, and hopefully system financing. That's a discussion that we're just starting to have. Now with the sanitary sewer, we're maybe not as much in agreement. We were kind of hoping we could get away without having to do that. And the discussion I had with them today is if they can come up with the system financing for us, that we would probably not argue that too much, and we would just go ahead and do the right thing and reroute that. So when you look at the increase there, a big part of that, a big chunk of that, I think we can cover with that alternate funding source. So, and maybe to back Steve up a little bit on the total budget too, the inner workings of this project, we're seeing a lot of places where we're saving money, and we're seeing some places where it's a little bit more money, but in general, I think it's been pretty tight to what they've originally talked about, with the exception of the sewer and water.
Thanks, Scott. Moving on, the last item that I have to go through, the project schedule. Within the next couple of weeks, we will turn in plans to MDOT. 80% complete, plus or minus. We'll do that in October. MDOT will then have what they call a grade inspection. I don't know why they call it a grade inspection, but they call it a grade inspection. That'll be sometime in November. We will then make final changes, hopefully turn final plans in sometime in January. MDOT will then advertise the project, and they will take bids in April. Start construction in August of next year, so 11 months from now. And a little over a year from now, the project will be complete. When you look at this job and you think of COVID and you think of lead times for materials, there's ductile iron water main on this job. The ductile iron water main producers will tell you it takes anywhere from 52 to 56 weeks once you order ductile iron water main for that to be delivered to the job site. Your city engineer, Scott Connors, has had conversations with Grand Rapids about securing 400 feet of water main, 12-inch diameter, from the city for this job for next year. So we're not waiting 1 year from April for the water main to be delivered to the job. The second big lead time item is the Span Culverts. Those are about a 4-month lead time. We've had conversations with Span on ways to speed that up, and they say, yeah, if you bid it in April, we'll have the pieces and parts there by September 1, which gives the contractor time to remove the old structure, move the sanitary sewer, place the water main, get the foundations in, and then the Span sections are delivered and installed. And we've got an October 2023 completion date. And That's what we hope it looks like. That's what it will look like a little over a year from now.
So commissioners, we'll go to, maybe if we can go back to the design slides. One quick question before we jump in on that, the cost side. What, do we have a contingency built in, and if so, what's the percentage on this?
The contingency built in is about 15%, about $300,000.
Is that enough, given the current construction climate?
We're told right now it is enough, yes.
Okay, all right. Cool. Sorry, Commissioner.
But a year from now, I mean, who knows? Right now, we're good with everything. We've
Yeah,
checked the
maybe-
road.
Maybe it's down at that point.
Yeah.
All right, Commissioner Burke, saw your hand.
Steve, thanks a lot. Very, very interesting. Just looking at the drawing here, the facade, I had envisioned, because you have to dig down, you said you have to go down, what, 4 feet on the road itself? I'd envisioned it was going to be kind of a, is it 2.5 or 4?
2.5.
2.5. See, I had envisioned it would actually be going down a little bit, not looking level like it does. Is the drawing right? Is it going to actually look level like that, or is it going to be more like coming down into it and then through it? Just curious.
It's going to be it's about a 2% slope
Okay, so nothing
through
significant.
there. It's not steep.
Okay.
I mean, we're just 700 feet. Keep in mind, the existing profile goes, there's a flat spot, then it goes back
Yeah.
down, and we're just kind of making it even through there.
Okay,
But there will be some slope, yes.
okay, thanks.
Is there any opportunity that we could finish it prior to school starting for like West Catholic and,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying, you know that's gonna be a big bottleneck for traffic. I'm just asking, probably not, but,
No, it's a great question, and we talked about it at a few of the design progress meetings. Scott mentioned we've had 5 or 6 of those now. And what it comes down to, unless the city can somehow, outside of the MDOT requirements, purchase, about $400,000 worth of parts, but then you're not eligible with MDOT, and it gets really tricky. So a better option would be to wait another year if you wanted to do it during the summer, but nobody wants to wait a year. It's unfortunate that it can't be done next summer.
So if we look at the timeline, we're looking at, I mean, a true impact for them is going to be October, September, half of August, would be my guess.
Yeah, it's 12, it'll be 12 weeks.
Yeah.
It'll be a
Well, I'm
full-
thinking when school's going to be in session, you're back mid-August.
Yeah,
That campus is pretty dead up until that point. Okay.
But Steve, make a comment, but on, during construction, you're probably gonna be keeping Pannell open most of the time, Bristol and Pannell, as you do the construction to the north, I would imagine? Or is it hard to tell? You're not to that point yet?
we're gonna be working right in the middle of the road. The
Yeah,
first
okay.
thing they do will be move the sanitary sewer, which is right smack dab under the middle of everything right now.
I think if we could, just let's have a conversation with West Catholic, give them a heads up and Betts and our major employers in that area.
But I guarantee you, by the end result, they're gonna be super happy with it,
Agreed.
so.
Agreed.
Go through the pain.
I suspect the biggest burden traffic-wise is going to fall on the Waldorf and Richmond area, because I think folks are going to use the walker back around instead of going under that bridge, but, worthwhile for the improvement, I think.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And I think too, I mean, Betts has their private driveway going out to the back now. They're the most significant user. And I think the high school, 2.5 months of an impact, if we give them advance warning, they'll get through it. So they may have to adjust the class schedule, I don't know, but.
So we will have a pretty extensive public outreach. We've already had a couple meetings, and we'll make sure to hit this harder than we usually would.
Okay. And I know you're gonna have a new principal at West Catholic too, so be a specific person want to get in the loop on that one. Okay.
Mayor, you ready for feedback?
Yep.
Okay.
Open mic.
On the facade piece, I like the idea of the fourth facade kind of matching what we've done on the Standale Trail. I think that's a nice, if we're gonna go with some type of facade treatment, I think that would be a good way to go, kind of, match the brand of what we've done on successful projects. And,
So not the red brick, but the stone
Right.
below.
right.
Stone below, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So just in the styling, there. As far as the fence piece, I don't know. I like the look of the picket fence better, but if you can save $25,000+, it's not a bad way to offset some
I
increased
do, but
costs.
the one thing I struggle with that is if you go to option one, the chain link, I mean, this is the Alpine Bridge right now, and I just did, you know, different commission back in the day, but that, it does not look real good up there.
Yeah.
And it was
That-
done with economics in mind.
That was the other thing that kind of was crossing my mind is the durability, longevity of
Right.
chain link fence to stay nice. So that's
Well, from a safety
where I found
factor
myself
too, I mean,
combative.
really, at how, I know there's railings pictured on the bottom of this. I mean, how safe from a bridge standpoint are we really up, you know, a little different than the pedestrian bridge in Alpine, but, yeah, I don't know whether it's option 2 or 3, but I'd be more inclined on that route.
well, yeah. Again, for my part, I just am not super married either way, but
Yep.
I hear you on the picket fence piece.
On the, you had discussed an option 4, you'd mentioned the gloss, component earlier. That does not have, it's option 2 that has a bit of that gloss to it.
That's option 2, yes.
And I have some concern about that with the headlights coming to that and that being a, impact, and I may be overthinking it too, coming up to it. Given how far down that comes, that may be could be a potential thing. I don't know, because those roads are good, the cars are gonna be awful close to the bridge frontage at that point in time.
And I agree with Steve to have a little bit of cadence and a similarity within the city on the facade.
And its connection probably only we'll notice. But
Well, you know, but it just makes sense, you know, all of our signs match, you know, all of our Walker signs match. Let's just, you know,
Finally.
It looked like option 2 on the fencing kind of matched what was on option 4 for the facade too. If we could get a similar color, it could really tie in nicely to use both option 4 for the facade and option 2 for the fencing.
That's where
Great
I'm
point.
leaning to is option 4 for the facade and option 2
Up
for the
top.
fencing.
I like that too.
Yep, makes sense. On the video surveillance piece, I would be inclined to say that is a worthwhile improvement on a bridge, but I'm open to being told that it's not worthwhile cost-wise.
Scott, you jumped up, anything further to add?
I was gonna say, related to the tunnel that we built a few years back, we could probably do something with the concrete ribbon, if you can call it that wraps around this to make sure that you carry that vision through there. And then we've also talked about a nice keystone at the top. And the keystone is the stone that goes in the middle of a bridge at the very top with the built, you know, constructed in 2023. Again, we hope that this lasts as long as the last one did at 100, I think it's 116 years old now, or 115 years. So that would be a nice amenity too. And it's just a way to dress it up a little bit. And maybe there's even a way to tie some brick in there that doesn't add too much to the cost so that we can really hit those themes.
Great idea, Scott.
One thing, if I may, that I forgot to mention, when we look at that drawing right there, there's water main on the left side of that picture. There's one down the road. There's a 24-inch water main, 88 inches deep. 24-inch water main is a very large water main. It's 88 inches deep. As we show those wing walls on that side, symmetric with the right side, we need permission from Grand Rapids to put a foundation over that water main. We're hopeful that we can get it. If we can't get it, this wall is going to be angled out more towards the road, so it's not going to be symmetric on each side. We're trying hard to get it symmetric. We'll keep you informed on
So you're saying that's on the wall that is opposite panel?
that. Opposite panel, yeah, when
Okay.
you drive up, the headlights will be on it.
So if you think of the tunnel from down below, again, the trail under M45, that's similar, where one side, the head wall has a severe angle and opens up. The other side, we just didn't have that room where Manzana is, and it goes straight for a longer period. It would be that kind of a look. So again, you know, here's another tie back to that, where you've got some similarities.
All right, we are at 7 o'clock. I want to keep us on track with the start. Let's, we can pick this back up if we could in a minute here with further commission dialogue. So it is 7 o'clock. I will call our regular city commission meeting to order. And very quickly, sorry, I did not have my invocation pulled up. If we could all ask us to either bow our heads in prayer or a moment of silence. Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us together tonight. Please help us make the best decisions that you want us to, and guiding us to do your will here on earth. We thank our public safety, our military that go into harm's way, and we give thanks for all of our friends that are here this evening as well. And we ask all these things in your name. Amen. I'd like to invite everybody, please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If I could please ask our deputy clerk to call the roll.
Commissioner Gilbert. Present. Commissioner Babcock.
Present.
Commissioner Groders.
Present.
Commissioner Heisinger Chase.
Present.
Commissioner DeShane.
Present.
Commissioner Burke.
Present.
Mayor Carey.
Present. All right. Let's get the approval out of the way, and then we'll jump back into the panel bridge conversation. Is there any discussion on the September 12th, 2022 City Commission meeting minutes? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for approval and support, please.
I'll make that motion.
Support.
Commissioner DeShane, Commissioner Groders, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Minutes approved. All right, let's pick this back up if we can on the Bristol panel piece. We may have to, one of those wing walls may have to be angled a little bit, as you were starting to share. Commissioners, further conversation, dialogue on this. I've heard a few option 4 and then fencing option 2 as kind of a guide, so.
I like that.
I like the consistency.
Okay. All right, so it sounds like we're unanimous there. Commissioner Gilbert, anything additional?
No, I just was going to say I don't think there was much else required from us. Since the one thing I'll just make some brief comment on is the water improvements. The connection for the north and south of the water main seems to be something that would be ripe for a system improvement, right? Because that is a significant improvement for the water system. The sanitary, I'm surprised that we would be able to use system funding just because it's kind of begotten by our project. But I mean, if we can use the funds, great.
Okay. Commissioners, any other comments, questions for either Steve or Scott? Seeing none, anything else we should be aware of? So it sounds like we're fairly unanimous here. I think option 4 on the facade,
I got that.
2 on the fencing,
2, okay.
and are we missing anything else? Video surveillance. Coming along. You said you could be convinced the other way, so.
I'm fine with moving forward with the video surveillance, but if someone has a strong objection, I am willing to listen.
Commissioners, dialogue on this?
What do we have on the trail?
It sounds like we have the same system on the
You
trail.
have a system on the trail, I believe it's 2 cameras. They record video. It's not being monitored or transmitted anywhere. It's stored on a hard drive. If there's any incidences out there, you go back and you look at the video to see what happened.
So there's a 72-hour loop on that. So if there's an incident, usually we'd find it within 72 hours and we'd be able to go out and get the tape, but it's not connected to the police department by Wi-Fi or anything like that. It's
Yeah.
a pretty simple system.
I don't know, do we use video for other bridges that we have within?
At this point, we don't, but we've used it in the parks recently.
Right.
It's really deterred some of the
Okay.
graffiti that we've had. In fact, we had a conviction not so long ago on some damage that was done in the park bathrooms. So we've used it in that way. One of the things, I brought it up in the meeting because we did have some graffiti that got hit on the Walker Bridge there, or the Walker Railroad, where they painted the signal house that was there. And that got cleaned up pretty easy because of the stainless steel. We just used graffiti remover and it came off. put an investment like this on the stone, if they do it, it's gonna be hard to clean it up. you know?
Right.
So,
Well, I appreciate, yeah, I appreciate your feedback because I don't know how often
Yeah,
we get.
and
if you go down 3 Mile, they just hit that bridge out over the creek there. So basically, we had to paint a piece of that, so it's,
Okay.
Grand Rapids 2 on Walker Avenue, that bridge got hit, and we just paint over it. But with this kind of stone, it's gonna be hard just to paint over,
Right.
so.
and it is a bridge that is ripe with activity underneath. So.
Sure.
If you go back to the first slide, you can see some of that on there.
By the way, I found my initials on it. Actually, Scott did. It was not me.
Ha,
Is the intent of the cameras, I might be getting into the weeds here, is the intent of the cameras to be facing underneath the bridge or to the sides or both?
I don't think we've determined yet. One of the things that concerns me a little bit is the foot traffic, to be honest, that's on top of the bridge. That's something that I'd like to keep an eye on. So I think we still need to vet that and determine what kind of cameras we put in, where they'd be facing. This is really more about the system and a general cost for a standalone system.
So maybe we could get more information if you look into it before we make a decision on the video surveillance, if that makes sense.
I think we've got a little bit of time on this one, and we, quite frankly, maybe see the cost start to see them level out a little bit too.
And we might even be able to do this as an alternate bid where they put prices together and then we decide we're just not going to exercise that part of it through MDOT, of course.
Fair, okay. All right, anything else we should be aware of, or you need from us?
Not at this time.
Okay. Commissioners, anything else before we cut Steve loose?
Mr. Mayor, there was the question
Yes,
on the
Darrell.
railroad agreement and that, if you want to give Scott some direction on that, or do we want to bring that back at a future date?
I glanced at it, I don't know the rest of the commissioners, I'm not seeing any watchouts. I did have on section 14 the right-of-way. Are we planning on having to acquire any additional right-of-way?
Some minor easements, very minor.
Okay.
You could probably touch on that, Steve.
Yeah, as far as the railroad goes, probably not. You can imagine, though, when you pick the train tracks up 3, sometimes 4 feet, there's a number of trees on the embankment slopes there that will be removed. There are grading permits from 2 or 3 properties, Sparta Sheet Metal, the Critter Control Place, and possibly a little bit from Betts. But we're feeling pretty good about those. But that's not part of the railroad agreement.
Okay. Yeah, it was, section 14 is my only one, is the potential to have some cost in there. Because it says the city at its own expense will secure any remaining, that's the question behind the right of way, so, okay.
I think that's a recurring theme
Yeah,
in the agreement.
yep, understood. All right, commissioners, any feedback, thumbs up, thumbs down on the railroad agreement? Okay, unanimous.
Okay,
So you want us to take a motion to accept, I think we've got to word this very carefully because we have open exhibits here too, we'll entertain a motion for approval, and need support obviously, for the acceptance of the railroad agreement presented. Yeah, with no material change, nothing material in nature. So, little broad thing there, if whoever makes that motion can make that with wording to that effect of approving the railroad agreement acceptance, allowing the city manager to complete the addendums, and if there's anything material in nature, city manager can bring it back to the commission at that point. Fair?
I'll try. I can make a motion to approve the railroad agreement as written, subject to amendments that the city manager is empowered to make with the attachments.
Support.
We have motion from Commissioner Burke, support from Commissioner Gilbert, and everybody want to make sure it clearly understands the motion. It's pretty rudimentary, but I want to make sure we're all good.
You guys should try making motions at planning commission. You guys would.
You've got your cheat sheets too. Yes. All right, so we have a motion for Commissioner Burke, support for Commissioner Gilbert. Any other discussion on that? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, we are good.
Thank you.
Okay, cool, thanks, guys. All right, next is I'll open a public hearing for the Industrial Development District for the Schwallier Farms IDD. I'll entertain a motion to open up the hearing.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Gilbert. Do you have support?
I'll support.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right. The public hearing for Industrial Development District for Schwallier Farms is open. Is there anybody in the public wishing to speak on the Industrial Development District for Schwallier Farms? If you would please come to the microphone, make sure that that red light is on by pressing the button, and state your name and organization or address, and the mic is yours.
Thank you for having me. John Klarevic with ECEK Holdings. We're the developer proposing the district, and I'm here to answer any questions that you might have. The Schwallier Farms comprises roughly 75, 80 acres. Our project will be on the south side of Northridge Drive, 3140 Northridge Drive. And we're proposing a district for our client to be able to construct a facility of about 133,000 square feet.
Commissioners, questions, comments for John? All right, seeing none. Is there anybody else from the public wishing to speak on the Industrial Development District being considered for Schwallier Farms? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for approval and support, please, to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion.
Support.
Commissioner Chase, Commissioner Groders, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, the public hearing is closed. Good, thank you, John.
Thank you very much.
All right. We are good on that. Next on our list is the public comment on agenda items. Anyone in the public wishing to speak on agenda items only, please come to the microphone up at the front. Seeing none. Reports from the city manager. We have 2 items under consideration. First is the Center and Weatherford Roundabout, and the second is the Kinney Avenue improvements.
Thanks. I will turn the mic back over to Scott, give you a rundown on both of these upcoming projects.
Yeah, I don't want to waste too much time by reviewing these in their entirety consecutively and for you, but we do have 2 RFPs that are on the agenda tonight. One is for the Center Drive roundabout at Weatherford. We've talked about that quite a bit over the last few years, actually since around 2005 when we first discussed that. As relative to the Center Drive, we did get 3 proposals from all 3 of our firms that are under as-needed contracts, and we are recommending that Warren Bruging get that project. Their estimated fee was $302,926. That included the design engineering, the construction engineering, and some minor right-of-way work to acquire 2 small easements to allow that roundabout to fit. The reason that the committee that was made up of manager's office, engineering, planning, DPW, the reason that they selected to recommend Warren Bruging is in part because they have Progressive DE, who's a very competent local traffic engineer as a subcontractor. Progressive helped out a lot with the initial sketches for this and the conceptual design as far back again as 2005. So we feel pretty good about that. And NNB also had a really successful project recently in Zealand where they had some local businesses that were very challenging with it today. And anytime we can see an example like that where they're able to work access into the local businesses, I think it's a success. So those are a couple of big reasons why they were selected. The second RFP is for the Kinney Avenue improvements from Lake Michigan Drive to Leonard. That is a very big job. We again got proposals from all 3 firms, and we're recommending Prine and Newhoff for that one. Their estimated cost is $432,100, and I think of note in their estimate is the amount for right-of-way acquisition. There's about $62,000 in there for that, and that's a really big number for us. But Kinney is only 66 feet wide with the right-of-way there, recently moved from Talmadge Township to, right on Kinney, right in the project corridor. So it's kinda nice to have somebody that's local, that can just walk down the street to work out some of these issues, and they do a good job. And Pride Newhoff also mentioned, in their proposal, the work to the north on our last section of Kinney, and some of the challenges that we've had there. And I was impressed because I had a list of 5 or 6 things that I was adamant that were gonna be changed when we did this one to tighten up some things, like how long can a driveway be closed, and some of the other delays that we saw that we thought were unacceptable. And without any prompting, they put all that stuff in their proposal and talked about lessons learned. And I think the whole group found that to be fairly impressive. So that's why we're recommending them. So again, 2 recommendations, 2 different projects, 2 good firms.
Some commissioners, questions, comments, feedback for Scott?
I would just comment that, well, first on the Center and Weatherford roundabout, something that we've talked about a long time. I think the area there is ripe for improvement. I think this is one step, but I think that long term there probably needs to be a conversation about Alpine and Center Drive, where we've got a pretty complex intersection that I think needs a look. But this is good. This is a good change that eliminates some confusion on how folks navigate there. So I appreciate that, look forward to that. And then on the Kinney Avenue improvements, I think just another step in the direction that we've been trying to go with the Kinney Avenue corridor. So very happy with what I'm seeing in both submittals here.
Okay. Commissioners, anything else?
Scott, I recall in our last traffic committee meeting that we talked about Wilson to Remembrance and that being problematic because of how straight it is. Are we going to have the same problem here from Center to Weatherford? Or, I mean, when you look at it, it looks kind of like a fairly straightaway.
Yeah, I think the concept that you have there is going to need to be tweaked just a little bit. There's a couple of entries that we want to make a little bit more severe in terms of the angle of entry, because again, that's a problem. And I think having a firm that's designed lots of roundabouts is going to be very advantageous for us with that. So you're going to see that twisted and contorted just a little bit, and we're going to learn from that lesson that we have just up the street here.
Anything else? I know the Land Matters helped us out with the other Kinney project, so successfully there without any disruption. So, Daryl, are we needing action on these
Yes,
tonight?
please.
Votes?
Yeah.
We'll take these as separate items then, if it would please the commission. So the first up is an engineering recommendation to award Moore and Brujink the Center and Weatherford roundabout project. If there's no other discussion on that, I'll entertain a motion for approval and support, please.
I can make that motion.
I can support.
Gilbert, Commissioner DeShane, any other discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? We are passed on number 1. Number 2, engineering recommendation for the Kinney Avenue improvements from Lake Michigan Drive to Leonard Street. Recommendation is to accept the bid award for Prine and Newhoff. Is there any other discussion on the recommendation? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for approval and support, please.
I'll make a motion.
Commissioner Chase, Commissioner Burke. Any other discussion on that award? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right. We're good on the engineering front, so well done. Thank you, guys. Appreciate all the work. Next on the list is the consent agenda. 3 items, expenditures in the amount of $12.7 million. Second is traffic control order 271 for Winchester Woods Phase 3, consideration for a stop sign placement. And third is continuation of the multi-jurisdiction winter maintenance program. Gary, is there anything on the winter maintenance program with MDOT, Kent County, we need to be aware of? Yep.
I believe that there's a 4th item for the consent agenda, approval and appointment of
Oh, sorry,
Scott
thank you.
to the
Hold on, let me take my binder clip off. Thank you, Commissioner Chase. And then a fourth item, we will have a upcoming resignation, trying to get ahead of this as we think progressively with our staffing planning, is appointing Scott Zokoe, who him and his mom own Five-Star Real Estate in Standale, longtime business in Standale, as well as strong supporters. They've actually started to get involved with some of the sponsorship within the city events. So Scott is actually the CFO for the real estate firm. So have met, Nicole and I went out and met with him and talked, and I just believe he'll be a great addition. His resume is actually in the packet, or his application is in the packet. So thank you. That's 4 items. So is there any discussion on any of the 4 items?
I think that he's going to be a great addition to that group.
Get another new face in there. I mean, it's a good, somebody involved in the real estate piece in that area, so. All right, if there's no other discussion on said items for the consent agenda, I'll entertain a motion for approval and support, please.
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll support.
Commissioner Burke, Commissioner DeShane. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, we are good. Next is a resolution for the, Resolution 22-637 for the Industrial Development District for Schwallier Farms, which we just had our public hearing for. Is there any other discussion on said item? City
Just as
Manager?
a reminder to the commissioners, this is the first step in the process. This is establishing the district for the whole area, so they will come in for individual sites for their actual PWA 198 tax abatements if they qualify. So the project that was referenced tonight, they will probably be back before you once they submit a site plan and move forward. But we've tried to do this when we have some of our bigger industrial parks, just to create districts out of the whole park, so we're not doing 2 steps every time. So in the long run, this will save a lot of steps as future projects come in as that area develops. So otherwise, pretty straightforward.
All right, Commissioners, any questions on 637 for Schwallier Farms? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for approval and support, please.
I'll make a motion.
Support.
Commissioner Babcock, Commissioner Groders, any other discussion on Resolution 22-637? Seeing none, I have a motion of Commissioner Babcock, support from Commissioner Groders. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Resolution 22-637 is passed to open up the Industrial Development District. Next is Resolution 22-638, Winchester Woods Phase 3, Act 51 Street Addition Certification.
Yeah, I think Travis has one quick slide to show you that kind of gives you a summary in case you're not familiar with the location, and kind of relates back to the TCO you just approved also. So.
There you go.
I have one whopping slide here for you. So the Winchester Woods Phase 3 development was recently completed. I put this picture together very quickly today just to kind of give you a rough outline of what that means. So on the west, you have Wilson. On the east, you have Kinney. South, you have Leonard. So you can see that the Winchester 1 Phase 1 and 2 development is tall timber, Winchester Court there, and Big Rocks Court. So Phase 3 is the white outline that we snapped off the plans. The 3 red octagons are the stop signs that you just approved with the traffic control order. So in order to kind of finalize out a lot of the public improvements here, we needed to pass the traffic control order to establish the 3 stop signs. And then what's before you right now is a resolution to formally adopt these streets, an extension of Tall Timber Drive, an extension of Shannon Street, a new Browning Drive, and a new Browning Court into the Act 51 public system. This will get us our annual increase of mileage that we get our annual funding from MDOT on. It'll also officially open the streets to the public as soon as you pass the resolution. I was out there just an hour before City Commission taking a look, and I already saw 2 cars out there shopping for lots. So, yeah, it's the first time I've ever seen that. So, you've heard earlier today that there's a lot of delays on construction with materials, and costs of construction materials have gone up substantially. So, it feels good to finally have another housing development portion done. This is a Dave Visser development. Any questions?
Commissioners? All right, seeing none. In front of us is Resolution 22-638 for Winchester Woods Phase 3, the Act 51 Street Addition Certification. If there are no further questions, I'll entertain a motion for approval and support, please.
I'll make a motion.
Commissioner Chase, Commissioner Burke. Any other discussion on Resolution 22-638? Seeing none, we have a motion, Commissioner Chase, support for Commissioner Burke. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? We're all good. Thanks, Trav. Appreciate the extra efforts on that one. All right, next on the list, I know we've got a large group here. Any other public comment does not have to be on the agenda items. Feel free to please come forward to the mic. And Allison, if you'll make sure that that button's, there you go. If you'd
Good
state your name
evening.
and affiliation or address, and well, listen, the floor is yours.
I'm Allison Morsink. I'm a long-term citizen of Walker. I'm also a member of your Parks and Rec Committee here at the City of Walker. We had the pleasure of hosting Allison Swanson from the Wildlife Rehab Center on September 13th. So they came in for a 10-15 minute presentation. We are currently in the midst of working with our consultant on the master plan for parks. So we're here asking for your guidance and direction to see if this should be an addition to our current plan efforts, or if this should be considered as possibly a separate project and agenda item for your future study and consideration. I'd like to invite Allison Swanson.
Hi, thanks for having me. My name is Allison Swanson. I'm from the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center. I am the licensed rehabilitator there as well as the assistant director. You just had the pleasure of meeting Alicia. She is my assistant as well and our assistant rehabilitator. So Wildlife Rehab Center is the only rehabilitation center of its size here in West Michigan. We are the only one that takes migratory birds from here to Howell. So we service Walker, Kent County, Grand Rapids, but even more than that. We go further south as far as Kalamazoo, further north as far as Traverse City. And we have been fortunate enough to operate out of our current location, which is a residential area in the Creston neighborhood for the last 30 years. That being said, we have outgrown that space. It's currently 1 acre, and we take in about 4,000 animals a year. We also field about 14,000 calls a year from the public of concerned citizens. So we have outgrown that space, and our current landowners are looking to retire and take their home and land back. So we are actually seeking a new location for our services. On top of that, we are entirely donation volunteer run. We have a large support of some of the volunteers that you see here today that came out to support our cause. We are also in the midst of getting community support letters just to express the concern that they have of if this resource were to no longer be available. I am currently talking to Sheriff. I do actually work with Kent County Sheriff on my day job. So getting a letter from them saying that they refer calls to us. Humane Society we work with, the zoo we work with, Blandford Nature Center, Discovery Center out in Holland. So we have a lot of partnerships where while some of the other locations, some of the other entities have environmental wildlife causes, we are the only one that does that rehabilitation. So any injured orphan wildlife comes to us, and like I said, even sheriff and police do refer to us for those services. So I am here today to ask the committee to begin discussions on partnership with us and to pave a way for rehabilitation in the community. We are seeking any sort of property to call home at this point. We're open to renting from renting a property, purchase agreements, anything like that. We're just looking for a place so that we can continue to offer these services to the community. We will be making a large PR release announcing this change with our organization, but we wanted to bring that to you guys first. We do feel that Walker is a very environmentally friendly and a community that loves their natural spaces as well as wildlife. So we did feel that Walker was a good fit for us. I did give you guys a big picture handout. So while we're open to keeping things small, if that's what the community sees, but we also are thinking grander scheme, what we could do. So on your handout, I have a lot of visuals. These visuals were borrowed from other like facilities, so they're not anything that we currently have, but it's something that we could envision for the community. Something as simple as having welcome education center, being eco-friendly would be very important. We have ambassador animal experiences. We can even have walking trails, community garden where community members could come in and garden and the food could go towards the animals. So all different types of engagements that we can offer the community to really feel like they can connect with nature and their wildlife that surrounds them. Second page, just some medical capabilities. So if we were able to do what we would like and have that wildlife hospital, we do things obviously like x-rays, diagnostics for the animals that come in, but then also we could open it to veterinary internships and service the colleges and schools that are surrounding us. Youth career exploration, so even young kids could come out, tour the facilities, see if they think they want a future in veterinary or wildlife, anything like that. As far as disease control, we actually do take in a lot of animals that are otherwise, with some sort of illness from surrounding communities. So we do remove that danger from the public as well by taking in animals that might have potential illnesses that could be a harm to citizens. Threatened species conservation, there are certain species we have that are threatened. So if we were able to do these facilities, we could go as far as to further that conservation. Zoo and nature partnerships, and then we do work with the DNR, U.S. Fish and Wildlife and all that. So there's that involvement with the larger scale of wildlife in Michigan. And then the next page just have some of the benefits that WRC brings to the community. We do give out nuisance animal advice as well. So even we get calls from the community where they have an animal in their backyard, they don't know what's going on with it, and we help them evaluate the situation, figure out, is it injured, is it fine, leave it, don't leave it, that sort of thing. And then I did have an example floor plan, again, borrowed from another facility, but just a way that we can cover all the bases. We can do education, we can do rehabilitation, we can open it up to the community to just feel some ownership to nature and the wildlife. So last page, just some images, good idea of what we're looking at. And then I did bring one more voice that you won't be able to hear. This is one of the little creatures that we help. This is a little baby possum that came to us a few weeks ago and does have an injured eye, so it will no longer be releasable due to that eye injury. But we do work with, like I said, Blandford Discovery Center, so it will have a future as an education ambassador. And yeah, this is it's just one of the voices that can't speak, but that they need us, and we hope that you feel the same. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, I'm nervous.
Now you're very well. Where was this? Did you just pull that out of your pocket?
I have it's a magic trick.
Usually, yes.
I have a little pouch,
okay.
so it's a bonding pouch. It's
I'm like,
yeah. No, it's been here the whole time. You had no idea. And then this is our veterinarian, Dr. Rebecca Vincent. So she does volunteer her services with us as well. So she's part of the reason we're capable of doing what we can do.
I wanted to add a couple. And this is all impromptu, I apologize. I've been a veterinarian here in Grand Rapids for 21 years now. I'm the vet for Blandford Nature Center, for Wildlife Rehab Center. I fill in at the zoo. Things have changed a lot. So Blandford was my original rehab group. And about a decade ago, they gave up rehab. So they are just an educational facility now.
And that's who's contracting when animals are in need right now with Blandford? It's you all that are taking
us.
care of that stuff?
And it is
Okay.
just us.
Yep.
In fact, the veterinarian that did wildlife at MSU has retired, so there is no college opportunity. I have 2 vet students coming from Arizona State next summer to spend the summer with me because there are just no opportunities. And I think if we had a facility besides my day job, that is great because they let me use their surgery suite and x-rays, there's a real opportunity for education. We do a lot with the high schools, the elementary schools, all kinds of education programs. So I get all teary, I get excited about that.
Well, thank you for your service, Doctor. I mean, it's definitely labor of love, but the volunteering, because you have a full-time
Yes, we all have
piece
full-time
and
jobs.
yeah, all of that. So I guess maybe the question's directed to one of the Allisons is from a business plan perspective, do you have a business plan, a pro forma, anything that's been put together?
We're in the process of, I do have the beginnings of, with this prospect in hand, I'd be, happy to expedite all that and get something a little more formalized together.
Okay. Why don't we're done? Commissioners, any questions, comments?
I did have one more addition. We hosted a public engagement event at English Hills on the 15th for the first ward for our Parks Master Plan, and the Wildlife Rehab Center was voiced there by several different citizens, just so you know that this is something that people are talking about and interested in, and it's pulling at their heartstrings. So we wanted to make sure that we put it in front of this body for consideration.
Awesome.
I think once the public, the press releases do go out, there'll be an even louder outcry from the community as far as that concern of if we have no new home to operate out of, they're going to be very concerned about what's going to happen to these little guys in that circumstance. So I think there'll be a even greater response once we get that out there, and we do plan to do that within the next week.
So if I'm reading this correctly, and I'm looking through the pictures and stuff, kind of speed reading here, you're currently, the land right now that you've been fortunate enough to use the last 30 years is about a 1 acre backyard.
Correct.
That you're doing this from.
4,000 animals,
Yeah.
1 acre backyard, about 100
And you've got animal
volunteers.
control from the county, you've got I mean, we just went down the list of everybody, so
I work
hats
for
off
animal
to you,
control.
that's an awesome.
That's my day job.
DNR
All
from
right.
other counties.
Yeah, DNR
from Newaygo, Allegan,
Montcalm.
Berry, Montcalm, Ionia, Kent County, so all the surrounding DNR officers come to us as well. We get phone calls from dispatch almost on a daily basis from, Ottawa County too. So we're getting phone calls from DNR and, the police quite a bit about, helping.
And just to put one more level on top of it, our work is never done and it always is continuing. If you would care to see a bald eagle, it's in the parking lot. We are transferring from my hands to Dr. Rebecca Vincent's hands, so there is a bald eagle in the parking lot.
All right, commissioners, when we're done here, make it quick, all right? So, well, let's do this. I know Allison Morsink has my contact information. We can talk offline here. That it's trying to be chief problem solvers here. That let's see if we can't make some connections to some assistant. I'm really interested in that business plan piece to see that fills in some gaps for me. I definitely have a need, and you're answering the call for a lot of people. So really a neat thing. So hats off to all of you, and all of you that actually made the time to come here tonight. Thank you very much. Show us support that speaks volumes. And let's see if we can't make some connections. And I see you're looking at a current move-out date of December 31st. Obviously, you have a clock ticking, but
We understand that might take longer than that date as far as getting things in motion, getting things approved, and getting all that going. I think that if we had a long-term plan, we could, make some other calls within the community, partnering with Blandford, seeing if they can house us temporarily while we get those things together. So we put a lot of thought into that, and we think that knowing that there's an end game, knowing that there's, a light at the end of the tunnel, if you will, would really, solve that, and we can find short-term solutions to some of the issues.
This literally fell in our lap like last month.
Yes.
So it's not like we've been sitting on this for years. Like, this is very new to us. So we've never had to do anything like this. So we're kind of, wet.
Exploring our options, but
we're newbies here.
everybody's been so receptive to us, so thank you for that. It just warms my heart to not feel so scared anymore. Thank you.
well, and it's not the microphone's not intimidating. I know some of us were at the zoo the other night.
I'd rather face the eagle.
Oh, this is true. Yeah, that might change in the parking lot. Some of us were at the zoo the other night as some of the long-term plans, the discussions we're having at the zoo is under consideration is the potential for an aquarium in the area, and there's a few sites that it's kind of narrowed down to, and Walker is one of them. And whether it ends up here or not, we don't know. But I think there was a sense of unity with the different elected bodies from the municipalities that were there that are interested in having that aquarium. And you can definitely tell there was a learning experience the other night. I mean, it just learned a lot. I was in the reptile amphibian area, and some things I have a membership there, and I didn't know, so it was kind of neat. So hats off to all of you. Thank you for what you do. We're actually in the home stretch here, so you might have a few that want to see that bald eagle. So we'll get you out in the parking lot here. So thank you much, and then I'll connect with you, Allison, later. And Allie Morsink actually has my. Yep. Awesome. Thank you, ladies. All right. Any other public comment? Agenda items, non-agenda items. All right. Seeing none, Commissioner, City Manager comments. I'll start with our City Manager.
Really don't have any, but since Gary Postema is still here, I thought, Gary, maybe you can give a quick update on the paving or street projects that you have going on and what still might be happening this fall, since you've got some new numbers in.
Yep, we just received our bids this past Wednesday on our overlay projects. Sorry. I'll press the button. Gotta press the button. So last Wednesday, we got the bids for the overlay projects. Michigan Material and Pavings were low bid at $897,851.09. So we have to adjust that a little bit because we did some micro sealing and took some of that money out of our 1.1 million for overlays to do some micro seals up in the North District through 3 Mile there on the major roads, and then some of the local roads were Poland's and stuff in there. So, and then we want to take the rest of that local money, and then we have a list that we're looking at. I got to get my bills yet from the micro seal contractors to make sure where we're at on money. So we're working on that. So we're going to go with, like I said, Michigan Paving and Materials. So the prices came in about $1.50 more than last year. So last year we figured about $9 a square yard on a 2-inch overlay, and this year it's the low bid is $10.35 a square yard. So I will have a list I can put out and finalize here probably in next week or so, and I can get that to you if you'd like to see that.
And we're in the home stretch here too, as far as what we're able to get done yet for this year.
Yeah, they have the second week and third week of October, and they'd like to get some of the local stuff done.
Okay.
So they're ready to go. So we get that paperwork signed, and like I said, we got to formalize some of the monies that we have left. So,
Awesome. Putting a ton into the road. So, Commissioners, any questions for Gary on the projects? All right. Appreciate it. Thank you. Back to you.
Nope, that's it. That's all I had. So thanks,
Commissioner
Gary.
Burke.
Thank you very much for the presentation on the Wildlife Rehab Center. Very, very interesting. Pumpkin Bash Saturday?
Yeah, I'll second that. Good job, guys.
I'm all set.
Commissioner Groders?
I did attend the zoo open house. It was very impressive. They have some really ambitious plans that I think would be really great if they can make them happen. Even now, the economic impact that they have to the area, it was quite amazing. The dollar amount was mind-blowing, actually. And that's all.
Awesome. Good, thank you. Commissioner Babcock?
My update was about the Parks and Rec meeting where the Rehab Center came to talk to us. So thank you for covering. You did a much better job than I would have. But they did bring squirrels last time to the meeting. So we had a few more little babies. Okay. That was it. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, Commissioner Gilbert?
Yeah, just quickly, we had Lewis Farms project come back into Planning Commission. They did get approved for their preliminary area site plan, so I expect that we will be seeing the rezoning of that property in the near future. But that's about it.
All right. Madam Clerk?
So for the November election, we just received our absentee ballots today. So the first mailing is anticipated or will be going out this Thursday, the 29th. As of today, that number is going to be 4,200 ballots, but we get additional applications daily. So I'm sure it's going to be a little higher.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, bringing us home. We have a DDA meeting in the morning. Anybody wishing to attend is welcome to. There is some tremendous progress being made by that group in investments in Standale around that. I'm excited about Scott joining the group. This afternoon we had our an emergency planning committee meeting, and I would say a bit informal, but there's a fair amount of personnel updates and some different things. And couple timelines was we asked for an updated emergency planning agreement. Thank you. We had actually had Kent County there as well. The coordinator for emergency management for the county was there, and we've asked for somewhere around the holidays, November to Christmas time, of having that agreement updated. There's new state contractual language that we need to use that is really copacetic with the state police, with the counties throughout the state. So our agreement will be updated there. Names will be updated, some processes, all of that. Thanks to Chief Pelton and Chief Mankel, who's hiding in the back behind the sign, that there's a lot of heavy lifting being done with that, a lot of admin work, so appreciative of that. And then we actually in January, March, and then I believe in May again, we'll be doing some tabletop exercises, just some mock things around critical incidents, and that'll help educate the commission a little bit more and understanding kind of the why, how, and what behind things. So looking forward to that. Outside of that, I think that's it. I do want to give a hats off to, he's not here tonight. He has a much deserved night off. Frank Wash has actually just been busting his tail, kind of wearing two hats. Daryl's taken on some extra things as well with Frank on the other side of the building now. It's been a lot quieter in the hallway over here, but do appreciate all the efforts he has, and the Planning Commission as a whole is just a lot of things coming up there, and kind of that theme of controlled growth is very evident right now. So well done, Planning Commission. Thank you, Frank, Daryl. That being said, I'll entertain a motion for approval and support to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Commissioner Gilbert, Commissioner Babcock, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you. And we'll come see a little bald eagle, some of us, so. Gilbert.